I think there was a slightly different schedule for our grieving. But my feeling is that I started a bit earlier because I was a bit more conscious of what was going on during the birth, realizing that we'd lost Cece a little, even just those however many minutes it was. I started adjusting, I think possibly a bit quicker. And also Vicky had an emergency C-section, which is a huge, operation to go through anyway. And then the recovery after that.
I gave birth and you didn't, and you had a lot more in your head to deal with. In a way it was kind of more traumatic for John. Sometimes I think that because, well, no, but I just mean in terms of, you had to, as you say, take on what had happened and start dealing with it very quickly because phone calls had to be made, things had to be sorted out, there was, you couldn't just collapse, whereas I was kind of dealing with my body.
We had some wonderful help from a paediatrician who was assigned to us, a child psychologist who was a family support person, like a sort of guardian angel. And we nearly sort of killed him on the first day because he said, I don't know how we're going to cope with this. And Clara saying, I don't know how I can go on. I don't know how am I supposed to get my head around this. I can't, I just can't imagine myself going through the next few days. We both felt that. And he said, well, you've got to think, what is death? And that you felt sort of quite infuriating, why can't you be more practical than that? We need practical help. And I think you feel, help me, somebody's got to help me get through this, take a pill and everything will be better.
Things progressively got worse, and he was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, a rare childhood cancer. They say it's a rare childhood cancer, but I hate those words because it's your child, it's your baby, and I didn't realise children got cancer, and it was the most horrific thing in the world. You don't comprehend what the doctors and the nurses are saying to you.
I was a few days short of full term, and we had decided just to wait to see if they would come naturally. The pregnancy was perfect. There was no problem. My consultant was really happy for me to hang on. I really wanted to try and give birth naturally. But it kind of got, right to the very end, and so they decided it might be best if I was induced.
We were on a maternity ward when Vicky was induced, and then I knew quite early on that they were struggling to find the other heartbeat, and then she was moved downstairs to another ward, a private kind of ward, which was stressful because Vicky was in pain and distressed, and we're moving all of our staff and getting the pain relief took a while, obviously because you've got to go and order it and get a doctor to. It just suddenly went from we know what's going on, this is all in line with our plan, to okay, we don't know what's going on now, and also it doesn't feel like the people around us really kind of know what's going on, because I could tell that the midwives were concerned, and was quite quickly I kind of just knew, and everyone in the room knew, and you could see that everyone in the room knew, but they couldn't say because the protocol is a doctor has to come and confirm it, and that doctor, the one that they needed to get, was in the middle of a A&E emergency, so she was a while in coming. So the pain of the situation, it became kind of more stressful because of this kind of Kafkaesque waiting where everyone in the room knows what's happening, and because of protocol they can't say, and it does strike me as a kind of less than human side to the experience, because you want someone to be able to say, this has just happened and we're really sorry. And they for whatever reason, their hands are tied and they can't say that. When it was confirmed, and Vicky was a little bit out of it by that point because they'd given her, I can't remember what it was, but pethidine. I just remember saying to Vicky, everything's changed now and we have to adjust. Our reality's changed, and this is what we're dealing with now.
Everything was just normal. There was no
signs of
it coming. No.
And then we're up at Jenny's family up at Middlesbrough for the weekend, and Jen said to me, "Oh, I've not felt Ava kick today." And me being me, I'm really I'm a born worrier, so I was worrying about everything she did. I was like, "Eat this, drink this." I was kind of, because I'm not in control, I was like helping her, I guess. And I think you may be a bit scared to tell me, going, "I've not felt a kick for the day." So me being me, I was like, "Let's phone 111 and all that kind of stuff." And they said, "Get to the hospital straight away."
And they took us in, and we sat in a waiting room for a little while. And then a nurse came in and got the heart monitor and stuck that on us. And it was like, not deathly silence, but, you know, it was like there was like almost like a cloud hovering over us. We had a sinking feeling.
Yeah.
I think we looked at each other. I think we both knew that was it. It wasn't going to be good news. And then obviously we got taken into a separate room to have a scan, because she said, just get the doctor to check. And yeah, that's when our life kind of crumbled, and it just, yeah.
Personally, I felt a bit like something being ripped from you. Your kind of future hopes, and you're on like a track of happiness and future dreams and this and that, and you totally get carried away with the feeling.
It's a really strange sort of feeling. It's like I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I knew what she was saying, if that makes sense, and I just kept looking at Grace as if to say what she said, without her wanting to actually tell me, because, it's just that you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You don't want that conversation to happen.
They were amazing afterwards.
They were amazing, and there was a room that was specially built for bereaved families, and she was in the room with us. She was with us for about 24 hours, I think. So our family came and they saw her.
Yeah, and I was I bathed her and dressed her, and yeah, we swaddled her, and so she was kind of presentable. And we had a really, really lovely. Initially, had a midwife who was with us for the first 24 hours, just constantly with us.
Yeah.
And she was a really, really lovely person.
Yeah, they were just there. They were, when we needed them, they were there. We had a designated nurse to be with us. And they were all on shift, and so we were never waiting for anyone or anything.
And I stayed in there was a little ante-room with a sofa bed and a kitchen, and I slept on the sofa bed, and
we were really lucky to have, have that kind of aftercare. It was incredible, because I think, even our consultant was a bit in shock. She said, I remember her saying, I've done this job for a year, 20, 30 years, and I'm still shocked when this happens, because you just think everything is fine. But actually, the birth is just that last hurdle, and you kind of forget that sometimes. And so everybody was, she was quite heartbroken, I think. It was really sad for everyone who'd been with us throughout the whole pregnancy, and our midwife, and, so, yeah, there was a huge amount of support
and our GP,
for us in the days afterwards.
Our GP was really good as well, because he actually has got, where we were living at the time, our GP had twins, and so he felt it quite strongly as well. Just said, just call me whenever you want, whatever you need. And so we felt really supported by the medical team around us. Our midwives. We had a bereavement midwife who would visit us.
She came to the house. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So and I've heard about people who've lost babies and just been sent home, and so I think we were really lucky in our experience of aftercare.
I remember the nurse, she's a good family friend now, she said, right, okay, now it's time for you to hold your baby. And it was 5.5 weeks in, and that was the hardest thing, being in the hospital and you're seeing all the other mums holding their babies, feeding their babies, and you just think, I wish it was me. Because as a mum, that's the first thing you want to do is hold your baby. And straight away when Naya was born, they whipped her away because they had to. And I remember saying, oh, but my husband's not here, right? I feel a bit bad to have the first cuddle. She said, no, go for it. So they passed her to me, and it was lovely. It was such a special moment. And then the next day my husband came and he was able to have a cuddle, and we both had a cuddle and we got pictures. She was so special. There was something about Naya that you could just sit and watch her, and it was like she was trying to communicate, and she could hear us, and sometimes we'd sing to her and you can stroke her fingers and things.
I cut the cord and then you had her on your chest, didn't you?
Yeah.
Give her a little cuddle.
Yeah. And then we had her a couple of times. Took her away because this is going to sound awful. They have to preserve her because we had to make a decision about whether we wanted to post-mortem and all that sort of stuff. So they have to kind of keep her cool. So yeah, we had them, but we were able to have her. They brought her in a couple of times.
Yeah, took her away and did her handprints and her fingerprints, and they measured her, and she was like 30 centimetres long, and she was massive, wasn't she?
She's quite long for like 23 weeks.
Yeah, she's going to be a tall girl.
She was going to be a tall girl, yeah.
But it's great that they did that, because we didn't really know they'd do that. So they came, when we left the next day, we kind of had a little book with her measurements and stuff in, and photographs. They took photographs of her and stuff. We took our own photographs anyway. But
she had all her little fingernails and toenails. That was quite...
Eyelashes and stuff.
Eyelashes and stuff.
And we had a meeting about 3 weeks later with the consultant because they had done a investigation, I think, within their team, and then they'd done a external one, so 2 had been done. And they talked us through every moment of the event. And
we've got like a printout, a report.
Yeah, so it was explained as a cord prolapse, so that's like a 1 in 200 births thing that happens. It's just a process that, if the umbilical cord is in the wrong place at the wrong time, then that's it. That's the explanation. And there was really nothing. I didn't feel that anything could have been done to prevent it, and they assured us that unfortunately it was just really bad luck. And I think I made my peace with that quite early, because I didn't feel anyone was lying to us. I didn't, they did as the best they could to explain. They were brilliant. They had us in a meeting and they said, please ask us what you need to know.
The first thing is that the consultant said, even though we've had this meeting and we've kind of, reassured you, and you're saying that you're reassured, she said, if something comes up at any time in the future, call me and we can talk about it. So I do feel like the door's open. If I suddenly wake up one day, and I've struggled with anger about the experience a lot. It's been one of the most difficult emotions, and Vicky's always said to me, if you're angry at the hospital and you want to call our consultant, call her and talk to her about it. And that knowing that I could do that has been quite important, that it wasn't like they kind of shut the door and said, no, that's sorry, we've given you our explanation, that's it. So that's the first thing, is that they let us know the door was open, and that they were willing to keep talking about it if we wanted to. But I had questions about what happened during the labour. and like why we were left alone for 10 minutes, which felt like a day. I was on my own with Vicky, and it was just like what it was because they had to go and find a doctor to get the pethidine. But it was like just that what it felt like to me was this huge abandonment. And when it was explained to me, it was like, okay, well, that makes sense.